Greetings, everyone, and welcome to part 23, or season 23, of the Doctor Who DVD Disambiguation. Yes, so when we last left our intrepid long-running science fiction series, it had been put on an 18-month hiatus to reevaluate and retool and whatnot to help combat flagging ratings. Well, after 18 months at long last, the series was back. Gone was the 45-minute format, and gone was half the length of the typical season. Yeah, so it was brought back in the half-hour format once again. However, the season had been truncated from the usual 26 half-hours that had been the norm for so long to a mere 14. Yeah. So, how did the new season fare after its long absence? Well, let's take a look. Season 23 of the Doctor Who DVD Disambiguation, today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Well, when the show returned, we were treated to what still holds the record as the single longest story arc of the entire series, a record previously held by the Daleks' Master Plan way back in the mid-60s. So we got the 14-part epic tale, The Trial of a Time Lord. Yes, there you go. So once again, for the first time since the War Games, the Doctor was put on trial by his peers, and basically for interfering in the normal goings-on of, various planets and time streams and whatnot throughout the galaxy. So, the 14 parts were split into 4 story arcs. However, they all contained the same title, simply The Trial of a Time Lord, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, all the way up to Part 14. However, there are since then, it has since been revealed that each individual story arc did have its own title. So, first off, we have Parts 1 through 4, The Mysterious Planet, which is story number 144. And I should mention, one of the things that was supposed to be a part of Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor story arc was that he would mellow over time. And already at the beginning of this story, we can see that his relationship with Perry has mellowed somewhat, and they're being much more chummy and whatnot. So pretty cool stuff. I don't even remember what happened in this one. It's been so long since I watched it. But, yeah. So anyway, we got The Mysterious Planet. And then next up we have... Yeah, this is kind of a notorious story because, spoiler alert, I'm going to have to talk about spoilers in this because it just needs to be done. Just because of why this is significant. So we have parts 5 through 8... Mindwarp, which features the return of Syl, who we last saw the previous season in The Vengeance on Varos. We learn a little bit more about his people in this. This is story number 145. Now, this is very notable in that it featured an ending that resulted in the Doctor being called away to the trial that we've been watching, right at a very critical moment, where he was rushing off to rescue his companion Perry, and was pulled away before he could get to her. As a result, Perry died. Very tragically, very unexpectedly, and heartbreakingly. So yes, we bid adieu to Perry. And I'll get back to that in a moment. But it was a wonderful death for her character, and one that Nicola Bryant herself was always quite proud of. So, moving on, next up we have story number 3, The Terror of the Vervoids. This is story number 146. So, story 3 of the Trial of a Time Lord arc, story 146 overall. I don't know, a lot of fans don't seem to like this one. This was always actually one of my favorite stories out of the whole thing. I just like it because it's a good old-fashioned murder mystery in space. So, Go figure. I don't know. And it introduces the character of Mel. Now, what's interesting is, up to this point, the Doctor has been forced to look at events from his own past. This, however, is supposedly a story from his own future. So he's looking into his own future, things that he hasn't done yet, which kind of raises some odd paradox questions. But the odd thing about this is we never actually get a proper introduction for the character of Mel. So in this story, he's already traveling with Mel. We don't know how they met, what their story is, or anything. They're just she's the companion, and that's that. Now that has later since been resolved in a wonderful Big Finish audio story called "The Wrong Doctors," in which he not only he basically corrects things so that he goes back to when he meets Mel, and it's very confusing, but a wonderful story that I definitely recommend you check out at some point. So anyway, that raised a lot of questions at the time because we never got a proper introduction for Mel. She was just kind of there, but whatever. Next up, we have the epic conclusion, which was supposed to have been written by Robert Holmes. However, he sadly passed away before he could complete the script. And for whatever reason, there was they weren't allowed to use his script or work from his script. So John Nathan Turner hastily hired Pip and Jane Baker I guess no, there are elements of it by Robert Holmes. I think the first episode is by him, and the second episode is by Pip and Jane Baker, something like that. They split it up a little bit. But they couldn't use the same resolution to the story that he had come up with. So they came up with something a little bit different, similar but different. So we have The Ultimate Foe, in which some very interesting revelations are revealed about the Valeyard, who is the gentleman who has been prosecuting the Doctor throughout the trial, and who seems to have it in for him. But so also notable, I've always enjoyed The Ultimate Foe because a large chunk of it takes place in The Matrix, something that I've always found interesting. The Deadly Assassin is one of my all-time favorite stories, and that was the first time we ever saw The Matrix. So this one, I think the first time since The Deadly Assassin, we go back into The Matrix again and have more crazy hallucinatory adventures there. So it's a lot of fun. I actually really enjoy that one a lot. But here's the thing that's odd. So further compounding the mystery of Mel is at the end of the final episode, Mel goes off with the Doctor. It's like, but you're from his future. You haven't met yet. Why are you going off with him at the end of the story? I don't know. It's very confusing. But as I say, it has since been retconned and corrected and fixed in the wonderful Big Finish audios. But at the time, it was horribly confusing. Now, it's interesting that this was called Trial of a Time Lord because in many ways, I think it was kind of the producer's stab at the BBC. And in many ways, the show itself was on trial at the time. Sort of the BBC saying, okay, you get a season, let's see how you do. And then we'll determine whether or not the show has a future. And it was very tense at the time because nobody knew what the future of the show was going to be. So it really, a lot was riding on this season. And and sadly, it turned out to be Colin Baker's last. He was actually let go after this season. Yes, they literally fired him. We'll talk a little bit more about that next time when we meet Doctor Number 7 in Season 24, and just sort of some of the things surrounding that. However, I should mention there is a wonderful hour-long documentary on this set called Trials and Tribulations, which is all about the state of the show at the time, and Colin Baker gives a very, very frank and honest interview about what the circumstances were surrounding his being let go, and how the BBC just really, really gave him the shaft. I mean, it really sucks what happened to him and how he was treated. I mean, he's such a freaking good actor, and really had some interesting things that he wanted to bring to the role and whatnot. The long and the short of it was he was told that he was being let go and they were going to bring in another doctor. So he asked if rather than just and they wanted to know if he would come back at least to do the regeneration story or the regeneration scene, I think it was. And he said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do is give me one more season to do a proper send-off for my doctor. We'll sort of tie everything up and do all the things, do as much of what we wanted to do as possible, and then have a proper regeneration at for the final story of the season. And the BBC just basically never returned his call. And that was that. So, yeah, that's sort of the short version. If you watch the documentary, you get the long version. But, man, that really, really sucked, because he deserved better than that. So anyway, basically the only way to get this is in the box set. And it's just a big honking box that fits the 4 keep cases quite nicely in there. So you got, sorry, just quickly, Story 144, The Mysterious Planet. Story 145, Mindwarp. Story 146, Terror of the Vervoids. And finally, Story 147, The Ultimate Foe. And that is it for the Trial of a Time Lord. Yeah, the disambiguations are probably going to be a little shorter now because the seasons are a lot shorter. There you go. That's all you need. And one of the few cases, this and the Key to Time are currently the only complete season sets that you can get. Maybe that'll change in the future, but hey, at least with this one, you're getting a full season. Alrighty, that is it from me to you for now. So I'd just like to take a quick moment to thank my Patreon sponsors. Thanks, Patreon sponsors. You guys and gals are awesome. Special extra big thanks to my 2 highest level sponsors, namely Kyle Pellegrini and Get Your Gorgeous On, the e-mag run by Michelle O'Toole and Simon Hedger. Big thanks, guys. Appreciate the support. And yeah, so please do consider becoming a Patreon sponsor, because it just means I can do more stuff like this and other things for you. So awesome. Alrighty, that is it from me to you for now. So until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara.